Next up are the Manzanitas, the Arctostaphylos species. Manzanitas are really popular choices for gardens because they are gorgeous, gorgeous plants. From the beautiful green leaves that also have that thick and waxy adaptation to beautiful red bark on most of the species. And as they reach their full height, the lower branches are often trimmed off to expose the beautiful, beautiful red multi-trunk form. However, many Manzanita species can actually be quite tricky to grow, even for horticultural enthusiasts like myself. And the reason why is because many of the species of Manzanitas and a number of the cultivars as well can be very sensitive to irrigation in the summer. And so if it is watered just once when the weather is too warm and the soils are hot, many of these species can be very prone to diseases that proliferate in the soil when it is hot and wet that many other plants have a natural immunity to. And so plants can rapidly experience branch dieback or even death. However, the good news is that there are a number of cultivars of Manzanitas that are extremely beautiful, great plants to grow into the garden, and they are quite a bit more durable and resistant to a bit of irrigation in the summer. So if you're following our general recommendations of a deep watering every 3 to 4 weeks and maybe attempting not to water in the peak of a heat wave, most gardeners will do just fine with them. And so we have a few top suggestions. One of the go-to Manzanitas, and probably the most commonly planted, is this hedge right behind me, Howard McMinn Manzanita, Arctostaphylos Howard McMinn. And this is such a lovely plant for either a full sun or part shade situation. However, it can be a quite slow grower in Southern California. For example, these plants behind me, which are probably about 6 feet wide and 4.5 feet tall, have been growing in this situation for almost 10 years now. It's a lovely hedge, but it's taken some time to grow in. Another incredible thing about Manzanitas is that many of the species and cultivars are going to flower with clusters of beautiful bell-shaped flowers in the winter, late winter, or very early spring before most of the other native plants have started blooming for the spring season. So for example, these went into full bloom in February at a time when there wasn't a whole lot of blooms from other native plants in our garden, and these were covered in native non-stinging bumblebees, some of the first native bees to emerge for the season in our demonstration garden, and they had a perfect food source for them already available. If we didn't have these Manzanitas here, there would have been much less food for them in this garden. And so Manzanitas, in addition to being beautifully evergreen all throughout the year, provide pollen at a time of year which is often a critical gap in the garden for the needs of our native pollinators. There are a few other top cultivars that we recommend that we find to be similarly easy to grow for the average home gardener. My very favorite is probably Sunset Manzanita for its beautiful looks, as well as the fact that it actually seems to grow quite a bit faster than Howard McMinn Manzanita. Definitely worth considering. Many of the ground cover Manzanitas can be tricky to grow if you are in a hot inland valley environment like we are here in the city of Montclair. But one of our favorite ground covers that can take part shade to full sun is John Dourley Manzanita. And finally, there are a couple of beautiful, quite large shrub Manzanita species. And it's going to take quite a number of years for these to grow to that large size, thinking 10 to 12 feet tall and wide in your garden. But some of them, again, can be quite difficult to grow. So an incredibly beautiful plant that people will often find hiking in the local mountains and want to grow at home is bigberry Manzanita. It's gorgeous, but it is extremely difficult to grow. And so a great substitute for bigberry Manzanita is actually one of the Arctostaphylos Manzanita cultivars. Arctostaphylos Manzanita is sort of a cousin of bigberry Manzanita that grows a little bit farther north in California. Its conditions make it a bit more adaptable to summer water, following our general recommendations, it's normally going to do fine when Big Berry Manzanita will not be. And so if you're looking for a large Manzanita shrub as a great accent in your garden, our top choices for that would be Byrd Hill Manzanita or Dr. Hurd Manzanita. They're very closely related. Normally, I would just purchase whichever one is available at the nursery. They're going to take quite a bit of time to get going, but they can absolutely be worth the wait.